the California Endowment, increasing access to healthcare for all Californians.
So you just went into your own theatrical journey. So how did you go from that to teaching aerobics in the city jails?
Well, I was teaching, as we were talking about back in the other room, the California Arts Council, which went from like, oh my goodness, went from like 35 million to 2, 3 million 4 or 5 years ago. It was an agency that hired artists in California, and I was lucky. I came in when it was really booming, and they through a program that was already installed in the jails, I was hired to teach aerobics. And I was like, I was just fascinated that they wanted me to go into the jails and teach aerobics, right? And I'm thinking, what has aerobics to do with changing? Hey, Angela, I thought that was you. What has aerobics to do with changing the lives of women? But I wanted to go. I mean, it was like the jail. I mean, I had a brother who was at Attica. My brother was also in the chain gang. My mother's husband was lynched. So I have this incredible, intense history with the struggles of African American men and prison, and watching the women around me grieve and be scared for them and worried for them. But I had never really thought about women incarcerated. Mm. So I go, and largely it's brown and black women that are incarcerated in California. And I was fascinated, so I thought I'll try it. But soon I found that they were not interested in aerobics. But the other thing you have to remember about aerobics is that this was like the early days before HBO. You remember that? Like you'd wake up in the morning and that would be like this. It was like soft porn. You turn on the HBO and there'd be some girl with her cleavage and come on, everybody, just blow. And so God bless the California Arts Council because this is what they thought. We'll have this woman teach aerobics. So everybody thought it would have something to do with aerobics, when really it was just their way of trying to figure out what to do with me. And I was fascinated, and I felt like I was dropped into, and I felt like a demolition woman. I felt like I was dropped into hell because it was the most amazing, surreal scene that I'd ever been in, with so many women waiting, so many women angry, so many women, lost, women screaming for methadone. I mean, it was amazing. Mm-hmm. But I thought I want to do this. I want to do something here. But they weren't interested in aerobics. But I started to move, and because I'm a performer, I mean, I was dancing and doing all this stuff before I got into this the community work. So I got into moving and speaking and talking about being 40 and having a child, and my daughter's getting married. Oh, I'm going to be a grandmother. Oh, and all this kind of stuff. And they're like just fascinated. And they start saying to me, why are you telling us your business? Which African Americans, you see, this is what we're taught. It's like, leave that here in the house. Don't be letting everybody know about your business. So I'm like, well, I want to create a bridge out of here so that we can all go home. And again, it's like, they're like, that's like right with the weed. It's like a bridge. I said, your children need you, your mother needs you, your family needs you. And finally a young woman said, well, you're not the police. And I said, no. And she said, what are you? I said, I'm an artist. And she said, what is that? So I've spent the last 20 years. Hey, Jassy, all these faces are coming into view. I'm really blind. You have to forgive me. I'm senior. And all these faces, all these things start to come into play into my life. And it's like, I thought, what am I going to do in jail as an artist? And how can that be? Because I'm not a therapist. Mm-hmm. But I think that good art, good social work is therapy. It's good therapy. And they were just ripe, and I was too. Yeah.
Now, you just said that she asked you, what is an artist? And you spent the last 20 years trying to answer that question. Yeah. What's the answer you come up with? I think that an artist can engage in the act of transformation consciously. I mean, I think that we do it all the time. But I started to make a piece based on my experience with the ages of women in prison. I don't know if anybody who's ever seen my work, Big Butt Girls, Hard-Headed Women.
Yeah, Big Butt Girls, Hard-Headed Women is a one-woman show that's seminal. For me, it was my way of like speaking to this experience of being an aerobics teacher in a jail. And what happened was that I met the ages of women. I met the thumb-sucking baby with the baby having babies, Doris. I met the crone, Mama. Mama, who was the old con, who was constantly giving me a lot of advice about what I should be doing, working in the jails. And I met the screaming Valkyrie, the siren, who was coming down off of heroin. And I was fascinated at the ages, and I was also modeling for an artist in Palo Alto, California. I mean, actually nude modeling for her series of The Ages of Women. And all of a sudden I was looking at them all in jail, and I thought I wanted to speak to, I wanted to take their voices, because it was their language. If you see Big Butt Girls, it's their language. And I wanted to put that on stage and take the community into jails. And the piece became phenomenal. I mean, I won a Bessie for that piece. I took that piece to Rome, and they translated it in Italian. It became an amazing platform for me. Yeah.
Wow. So you started to take us through the creative process of how a piece goes from something in your mind to an actual performance piece on stage. Can you sort of finish that process for me so that I understand?
For Rhodessa's work,
yeah,
or Rhodessa's with Incarcerated Women?
For your work with Incarcerated
Oh,
Women.
Incarcerated Women.
And how do these women come to you? Like, how are they selected?
Well, like I said, we have, like, the first month is a round table. Okay. It's a round table in the jails where we're just going to talk about what's wrong. Why are we here? I always say to the women, why are we here? Why are we all here in jail? And Sean and I usually lead this, and it's really trying to keep it real about what's going on. And it's not about blame, but it's about taking responsibility for your part in whatever happened so you can get on with your life. And also, some women just need to get mad as hell that they were duped, that they were beat, they were raped, that they were talked into selling their soul to the devil, and all this comes out in the round table, you know. And for me, I'm recording as much response as I can from whatever's coming back at me. And Sean, as the social worker, is leading these conversations because they're intense. They're just intense, you know. It's like we have to take these women, we take them all the way out there. You got to bring them back, you know. But we never lost a passenger. We have never lost a passenger. Sometimes they took me out there and I did back. But anyway, this begins it. And then we do this for about a month. And you sort of watch who comes and who goes. And then we get on our feet. And I start to do basic exercises. It got to be, we wreck our bodies so out there in the world that I started saying to women that my only criteria is that you have to be able to roll. I don't care what kind of roll you can do, but you got to be able to roll. I can't even start to create theater with you, because I'm a physical theater specialist. I am not interested in standing around and spouting words, but can we move through it? Can we all move and dance together? Can we create rituals, communal rituals that we are all responsible for each other? Can we build ensemble? And so after the first 4 weeks of the circle, then the next we go into the movement section. And then just to see who comes back, because some people, you know, they can't come back, or they'll tell me they don't like it, and that's just that they're scared to move, or they've always seen themselves as fat, or they are not talented, whatever. But gradually I'm down to, sometimes I start with 60 women and I end up with 20, 25.
Okay.
And then I bring in my dramaturg. I bring in everybody, the community group that I have. They have to come in with stories. And I give them assignments. And then we start to share whatever the story is. If it's the ugly duckling, how many different versions can we bring in? And the women are read too. The women tell me their version of it. And then I say, I want you to go home tonight and I want you to write your own version of the ugly duckling and put yourself at the middle of the ugly duckling. And then, of course, some people don't do it, but then you get some amazing stories. And then this becomes the stuff, and then there are people like, Miss Jones, can I read mine? Can I read mine? And I'm thinking, aha, this is somebody that's ready to stand up and be seen. So gradually, I start to pull out the women who are exhibiting signs of excitement about being heard and sharing their own work. And gradually it builds. And then there are different questions. Who did you leave at home? What was a piece of advice you got from a parent? Are you a parent? Who loves you? Which is a really big one for women. I think for young women in particular. Who do you love? But baby, who loves you? Who's got your back? For real? And that's an interesting one, isn't it? Don't you think it is? I think for all of us. We can talk about, oh, I love her. Oh, I love him. But who loves you? And what is love? Because then it's, what is love? You know, sex is cute. But there are people that I love that I've never laid down with. But I will lay my life down for them. You know, so, and like we're talking now, all of a sudden you have people who are saying, well, can I write about that? Can I write? Yeah, you know. So gradually the monologues start to happen. Now my company, the women from the community, the actresses, the social workers, the midwives, I might say to them, take this and you read it. Because I've watched people fall apart. They can get to the brink of the truth. They can hand me a piece of paper with everything on it, but then to ask them to perform it, you know, or even just to read it. And then my actresses are there. I have some great women that I work with. Then they're there. And the women may hear their words and say, well, I want to do it. I want to do it. And then and when I first started with the Medea Project, it took us sometimes 6 months to build a piece. Because I do actors training. I do sisterly politicking. I do self-esteem building. I do truth-telling. I do dream gazing. I do journal keeping. All of this in the guise of a theatrical project.
So let's take it back to the States.
Okay.
And what are some of the healing and transformation that you've seen the Medea Project have on the families and the children of incarcerated women, as well as the community as a whole?
I had for a while there in the very middle of my career. The Medea Project is over 20 years old now. And at one point I had baby Medea. And baby Medea were the nieces and the daughters of the women that were my core. And they on Saturday, the women who got released from jail, they would bring their younger sisters. And soon I had a group of young girls who had started out working with us, but then I had a baby Medea, and they were, and what that was much more about like we created something called the no chorus. You know, when somebody touches you in the wrong way, how many different ways can you scream no? And it was wonderful. It was just wonderful to get them. And then of course somebody would say, "What do you mean the wrong way?" And then her little friend would go, "You know the wrong way." I said, "Well, what is it we should be?" You find out that something's already been happening to one of the kids, you know, and or they'll go, "Oh, he tried," and I'll say, "Well, okay, we got no. How do we say no? How do we say no loud? How do we say no to call the police?" And that was a lot of fun. It was very interesting to be working with them, preventive work versus before they get into the system and stuff. And that was one of the wonderful things that happened with the community and the family. Most recently, I've been working with women with HIV in collaboration with UC Medical Center in San Francisco, making theater, and we made a large project last January, Dancing with the Clown of Love, Living with HIV in the 21st Century. And the show was so profoundly wonderful and universal that there were people that stood up during the Q&A and said, "I am HIV positive." And they had never told anybody. And that was pretty profound to me. So those are two things that have happened. And then you have women who, in the early days, we started doing masturbation workshops at the county jail because so many women who were prostitutes had never had an orgasm. They knew what an orgasm was. And so Sean said, "Okay, this weekend on Friday we'd say, this is your homework. You know, whatever turns you on. Is it a dirty book? You can't watch the movies in jail. So get a book that turns you on, picture, but go to bed and touch yourself until you come. Find out what makes you come." And the women are like, ooh, Chantel, please. You're giving it up for $20, $25 on the street to strangers. You can't touch yourself. You know, and women came back that first Monday. They were outdone. Women were calling up pimps and saying, you know what, honey, don't bother me. You know, I mean, like, you know, women were touching themselves and finding sexual release in jail. I mean, it's totally illegal, you know. We're not supposed to be like encouraging women to touch themselves. You know, it's like, you know, but that was wonderful. That was just wonderful. That was just wonderful to have women talking about, whoo, you know, oh my God, oh, you know, it's like, I said, life can be grand when you got a good hand. Miss Jones, you crazy.
You know, with my agency, with Girls in Gangs, we have a very low recidivism rate, but it's not zero, you know, and it's the same as with your program. And, you know, one of the things that I always say to my staff is that it's important to celebrate the small wins as well as the big ones.
Yes.
How do you define success in your program?
Well, when I first started, and when I used to do a show every year, I'd raise the money and I'd go into the jails every year. And if the women could get through the process, if they could deal with Rhodessa, I mean, if they could let me get off in their faces and do it, and they got through it and made it to the stage, it was a success as far as I was concerned. The second next win is they get out of jail, go through Walden House, which is the big rehabilitation factory, and then come back to the group is success. Regaining the trust of your children, or at least trying, and asking for help, asking people to help you, help me deal with my son, help me deal with my daughter. I had a group called The Rose is a Rose is a Rose, which was the mothers, the mothers of incarcerated women and the younger children, and and women who get their mothers to come to this group, so we could talk about what had happened with the mother while your daughter's in trouble, or the girl being able to say to her mother, well, you know, Mom, you did so and so and so, you know, and that was one of those meetings that this one young woman tried to come for her mother and said, well, you know, Mama, you was doing. And the mother said, but you know, I never went to jail. I've been raising your kids. So who's smarter? And I was like, so hey, that's something to know from Mom, honey, because Mom never went to jail, you know. So it was like creating, for me, that was success too, where I could create other smaller groups of that were the offspring of the Medea Project.
Okay.
Stuff, yeah.
How has the Medea Project been criticized, and how has that criticism changed your process over the years, or has it?
Yeah, I don't.
No. Okay.
Haters. No, people would say to me, they'd say, well, you're making them think they stars, you know, because the Medea Project goes into public theater and does a show for the public. I'm not interested in Negro Auxiliary Ball. I'm not interested in basement theater in the church. I want this to be public communion. And we do that, and we sell out, and really we were criticized by other people who could not do as well, that I was making these women think they were stars. And it wasn't, I was thinking they were stars. And it was nothing to do with me. They just threw down on stage.
All right.
So, yeah. And you know, but it also made me think about how do I talk to them about, you know, the fact that that's just the cherry on the top performance. And it's the process, which everybody has to keep in the front of their minds to realistically answer your question, yeah.
What do you see as an alternative to the systemic imprisonment of women who act out their marginalization in extreme ways?
Well, I think that my theater has spoken to that to some degree. But, you know, let's not get it wrong. Now, some people should be in jail. You know, I think that inside of jail, we should really push for more treatment. You know, we should push for more classes. We should bring in folks with a much more sympathetic idea about what can be done in the name of rehabilitation inside of incarceration. I think I think the jails are so unhealthy, prisons are so unhealthy because people are just kind of thrown in together, and they're not, the people who are taking care of them are not trained to the extent that they should be to be dealing with it. Because a lot of it's mental illness, you know, a lot of it's poverty, and with women, a lot of it's rage, and we should be in touch with our rage. You know, we should be mad. That's some things to really get mad about. But then how do you do a guided, guided visualization through that, so you come out whole on the other side.
Girls in gangs, what we do is we work with girls in the juvenile justice system, so in the jails and prisons, but our girls are between the ages of 12 and 18. So we're trying to stop them before they get to you.
Okay.
So I have a couple of my girls here today, and I just wanted to know, do you have anything to say to them? With your experience working with the adult women, anything that you want to say to them to sort of stop them now?
I think you need to know, and it's hard because we live in a knuckleheaded wonderland, but you are precious. You're fine just as you are. You know what I'm saying? And I know I'm talking, but I've been there. I've been there, this place where, you want to jump, click, you want to jump, slip, and you blah, 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 blah. Slow it down. Nate, work with younger people yourself. Find a Saturday program where you're dealing with little girls and work with them, because you already know a lot, I'm sure. But remember that it's about you, boo. And tell people that, it's about me. Yeah, what I'm trying to be, the best I can be. And if you got to ask that question, there's no room in my life for you. I'm fabulous. Mm-hmm. You are, okay? Mm-hmm. I hope that helps. Thanks.
Thank you.
Brought to you by the California Endowment and its Center for Healthy Communities.